Good morning. I'm going to explain to y'all why gender pronouns are the gateway drug. First off, can you tell me how many gender pronouns there are? I can't, because it changes every day. I mean, there are more gender pronouns than flavors at Baskin Robbins, way more than that. And it will just continue on and on. The gender pronoun, if you aren't familiar, has nothing to do with your biological reality. It has to do with how you feel about yourself inside, kind of a virtual reality of who you really are in the real world, but who you think you are inside. When I was a kid, I thought I was a monkey, so maybe my gender pronouns will moan and moans and whatever. So all these gender pronouns come up. People think they're demons. They think they're all sorts of things, man. I mean, they could think they're a unicorn, but, have a unicorn pronoun. They might get caught in doorways. Their horn might hit a tree when they're going under a branch, or it could be difficult. So be careful with those gender pronouns. But seriously, folks, this isn't a joke. This is real serious, and I'm going to tell you why. That's what this video is going to about. I'm going to try to explain to you as best I can. I'm not a professional speaker. I'm just a concerned dad seeing what's going on in the world to my daughters who are growing up, and I want to make sure they get all the opportunities they deserve in their gender identity and their spaces and their sports aren't unfairly invaded and basically diluted. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in my town. It seems innocent enough to have, a gender pronoun, they, them, or the most common one. There's some other ones. They, them, I guess, is the idea that you're not sure if you're a male or a female. There are people that have two genders sometimes. They think they're a he and a she at the same time, which, as far as I've seen in this world, I've never met somebody that's two genders at the same time. I've seen costumes on Halloween where they put half their face a woman and half their face a man, but again, that's a costume. So a lot of these people with gender pronouns, mainly kids, what will happen is, and I saw this 5 years ago, is you will see a lot of non-binary kids. And these non-binary kids that I have seen over and over in my town will paint their hair purple or green or some color that's really cool looking, and they'll put kind of sparkles in it. It's really captivating. And it'll be like, but the reality is, when you get through this process, the whole gender ideology washes out just like that hair color. It's not real. It's based in something in their head. And it doesn't work. I'm a logical person. I don't believe in, the fantasy of virtual reality and the matrix, of what's going on. I believe in what's happening in reality. So my decisions are based in that. But let me tell you a reality in my town that is going on. There is a pediatrician in town. When I went to the doctor as a kid, the doctor had lots of questions for me, understandably. He wanted to find out what my weight was. He wanted to find out what my height was. He wanted to do my blood pressure, my temperature. But right there on their chart had that I was a male or female, and he could look at me through my clothes and assess pretty easily that I was a male. I guess I could try to confuse him, and I could come and dress up for my mom's closet and put on some oversized heels and one of her dresses and a string of pearls, and maybe even put on her lipstick and try to, convince him that I was a female. But I think he'd see through it. He's a pretty smart guy. He went to med school. He's got, some smarts in that head of his. So, he didn't ask me, are you a boy or a girl? That never happened to me. And, but now, there's something going on in the pediatricians in Northampton, Mass. I think this is in Knapp, Northampton area pediatrics. When you walk in, kids young as kindergartners, a girl or a boy, obviously a girl or a boy, they'll ask a child. Luckily, they didn't do this to my kid because they would not have gotten away with it. I promise you that. They ask, are you a boy or a girl? And it seems like an innocent thing, to ask a kindergartner that's question or a young kid, but let's dissect that a little bit. Here we have a kid whose brain, by biology and researching the brain neurology, have understood that their brain is not fully developed. They have all realities. They're not ideas. They're not based in reality. For one, they're easily cajoled and believe things that are fantasy. The Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, to name a few. So their mind is not completely developed, and their sense of what's right and what's real and fake is easily prodded and changed. So when you have a person who's an authority figure like a doctor, whose whole life is about being an expert on biology, they go to school, many years of school, to study the anatomy and biology and organic chemistry and all these things that are based in biology. The chromosomes of XY and XX, which defines our male and female gender, which can't be disputed. And I have not seen a gender surgery that does that yet, that can take away that. They can't really do that. So that's a biological reality. Yes, there are anomalies of people that are intersex, that have a combination of those chromosomes, but those are anomalies. Those are people that are outliers that rarely happen. And like there are some people that might have 6 fingers. Most 95% of the planet, more than maybe 99% of the planet, has 5 fingers on one hand. Well, technically 4 fingers and 1 thumb. So we're gonna say that there are male and females, okay, for this exercise. I just want to address this whole intersex idea because it is an anomaly. It is a rarity. I'm just going to say that. A very rarity. So let's go back to what I was saying in this idea that a person who is an expert on biology is putting doubt in the mind of a kindergartner on whether he is a male or a female. To me, that's completely wrong. That's basically abusing your authority and your expertise as a doctor to try to manipulate kids. That is, in a sense, mental child abuse in my mind. If somebody did that to my age, if my doctor did that to me age, I'd probably go and thinking, well, he is an expert. Maybe I'm not a boy. I did, put on my mom's dress at one point or put on her heels. Maybe I am a woman. So, and I mean, if even today, if experts told me over and over to start questioning, there might be a seed of doubt. And I'm a pretty firm person that does not follow conformity and what the crowd does. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm a Christian in a town that really doesn't like Christians. I'm attacked in many ways, and I stand pretty firm in my beliefs. As a kid, I stood up against racists when everybody attacked me in ways all the racists did. So I'm not one to give in to conformity and peer pressure. But if a professional like a doctor did that, I might kind of start thinking about it. So imagine a kindergartner whose brain is developing and can be easily cajoled it goes beyond. I mean, we know all the stories of vans coming, white vans, dark vans coming by schools and prodding kids with kindness and candy, and then all of a sudden they're abducted. I'm not saying that's level, but it's clear that kids can easily be manipulated, and as a parent, you should be concerned of that, regardless of how you feel on this gender discussion, this gender ideology going on in our schools that they're being taught. Another thing, before I get into that, it's interesting to me how parents, mainly left-leaning parents, non-Christian parents, don't want religion taught in schools, which I get that. I'm a Christian, but I don't think you should teach religion to kids in school. But the interesting thing is religion is a belief in your head. There's no proof besides, actually the Bible's a pretty good proof, and I don't know any proof from gender ideology that sold more copies and distributed all over the world more than the Bible. I haven't seen any gender books doing that. So, but we won't get into that. We got an idea. And gender ideology is a belief in your head. But left-leaning people and Democrats seem okay with teaching ideas that are in your head to kids in class. So why is it okay to do that, but not okay to teach the belief of religion in your head? It's kind of hypocritical. But let's get back to my other discussion. Okay, so we're going back to the kids, because that's the discussion I want to get into, this whole gender ideology of your gender can be whatever you think in your head. And we already talked about how doctors can have a huge effect on kids. Think about it. And if they're in there doing that in their practices, when you go see a doctor, when parents like me send them, it can be kind of concerning and dangerous. So now let's go to schools. Kids, kindergartens. Mike, as a kindergartner and a kid, man, I looked up to my teachers a lot. A lot. In some cases, more than a doctor. So if I go into school and I have this teacher, I'm not really even thinking much about my gender, to be honest. I'm not really thinking about whether I'm a boy or a girl. I'm just kind of out on the playground, playing in the dirt, having fun. I'm not thinking about it much, but teachers want to bring that up in their circle times and stuff and start bringing up gender ideology. And if teachers start bringing up these ideas about questioning your gender, another authority figure, then again, that in my mind is mental child abuse. You're an authority figure that they look up to, and you're starting to tell them to question their biological gender that they are born with. And yes, I have a problem with this. So this is what happens. They start these discussions early on these kids, this idea, this gateway drug to this gender ideology. So kids are like thinking, maybe the teacher has something there. Maybe I should think about that. So they're putting this idea more and more to these kids' heads that are kindergartners. You want to have these discussions with kids in middle school when they have more of an idea and have had conversations and understand this better and aren't in this confusion land of thinking maybe like I was, that I was a monkey and a unicorn and I believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and fairies. Fine. But when my kids are living in a reality and other kids are living in realities that are not reality, that are based on virtual reality and fantasy land, I have a problem with that. Better yet, if you watch these teachers, a lot of times, they'll have this really pretty, like I taught before, purple and green and glittery hair. It looks pretty cool as a kid. Man, that looks pretty cool. I want to have this green hair. I want to have this purple, I want this sparkly hair. So the idea of non-binary seems pretty cool. They associate that with this hair, which is not real. So it's kind of like coaxing it is a little bit of a hyperbole, kind of like coaxing a kid into a van with candy and kind talk. It's really appealing, but once you get in there, there's some sinister things going on. They're trying to convince you to something that you probably never even thought of before, this gender ideology. And then you have the next step in this is you come up with these pronouns of these they and them. You know what? Maybe I'm not a boy. Maybe I'm not a girl. And wow, it'd be really cool to be a they, them, because I can have this cool hair and put these glitter in my hair and do all this stuff that I see these people with they, them pronouns. That actually happened with my daughter in grammar school. I should have been more aware of what's going on. She came home and she said, oh, there's this person or these people, the person in my school. And this was like 5 years ago. This was 5 years ago. She was really young in grammar school. And they have this pink hair and they're they, them pronouns. And you know, Daddy, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'm a they, them. And I looked at my daughter and I said, you know what? This is not a joke. This is not a hobby. This is not about blue and green hair and purple hair. This is about a big decision to decide whether you think you're a gender that your biology is telling you're not. So I want you to think very serious about this and not take this as lightly. This person may be taking this very seriously. I don't know. But non-binary is more than just painting your hair purple and green and wearing cool, colorful clothes and spiking and what all the stuff that a lot of the non-binary kids did. And now this kid is now, who was once a girl, has now completely changed their name and now identifies as a boy. And where that heads, I don't know. But I nipped this in the bud real soon with my daughter. And today, she's a girl. I've seen no indication of her saying she's a they, them. She can wear whatever she wants. I have not stifled her from me. That I just told her, take this very seriously. I had one conversation with her, and I have not mentioned it since. So she is a very analytical, rational teenager now. I've parented her that way to think for herself, even though I have different ideas than her. That's fine, but I want her to be rational and not be swayed by some glitzy idea of pink hair and blue hair and go down a path. So the next path beyond the gender pronouns and the hair is people having discussions about hormone replacements, about putting hormones in their body that basically start the process of making sure that for the rest of their life, they can't be a mom. They can't have kids. That will be over. They will be, for all point and purpose, be castrated. They will not be able to have kids. Males will not be allowed to be kids. I think it's lupin is the I haven't got the exact spelling, but you can look it up, is the hormone that they give that castrates people. It's basically the hormone that they give to sex offenders to castrate them, to make sure they can't, impregnate people in their pedophilia. Just so you know, there's a fringe movement going on right now where people are trying to normalize, leftists are trying to normalize pedophilia. They're trying to change the name of pedophilia to MAP. That's the acronym, which minor attracted person, to make it normal, to make it right, on a much more horrific level of what's going on now. And that's screwed up. It's pedophilia and it's wrong. But let's get back to what I was saying about this idea. So let's say you go down this path to where you talk to these doctors that are actually embracing this idea of gender ideology with kindergartners, and you go down this path and you have these hormones. You have these hormones that basically starts you on this process of making you deny your biological gender, which can't be changed in your chromosomes, which we talked about before, by putting these hormones in you. But what goes in when you do this, when you do these hormone treatments with these kids that are are very young, minors, sometimes middle schoolers, I don't know, maybe younger. They try to hide it. They try to hide the stuff like they try to hide everything else going on in schools that they don't want you to know about. You start thinking, because you now have, if you're male, you have these female hormones. So now you start thinking you're a female. This virtual reality that you're, that you're female when you're not. And that's wrong. So you've had the gateway drug of having these discussions with the doctor to question your gender, to question your male and females. Then teachers in your school are doing that. Your gender pronouns are having discussions with people. You're having all these things where it seems cool to be non-binary, which then leads to you having discussions with supposed doctors about taking hormones. You take these hormones that make you think you are the gender or sex that you're not. So then, you know what? I'm really starting to feel like I am actually a male or female when my biology tells me different. So then the next step after that is to have discussions about surgeries. Surgeries where they take your, they start basically taking a mastectomy, taking off your breasts, removing your penis, and adding artificial anatomy that basically says you are on the outside a male or a female when your biological reality is very different. It's kind of interesting how people who are transgender, whoever, say that, you know, your parts don't make you who you are, but it's interesting how they want to have the parts of that gender. So it's kind of contradictory. So if it doesn't matter, why do you want to have the artificial parts of the gender? Clearly it matters to you because you want to change it. But let's go back to this idea. So, and let's talk a little bit about these gender surgeries and what goes on, because it's horrific. It's like Silence of the Lambs. So I want you to look at my arm here and look at that forearm. And this forearm right here is going to be, I think it's a phallosectomy for females that want to become males, want to become men, is going to be used to form your penis. I'm going to put my phone down here, see if I can show you this. What they do, and this is, I've seen scientific articles on this, and this, be aware, this is pretty horrific. They literally take your arm, I'm going to roll down my sleeve, and they cut with the scalpel, I think, and they shave off a layer of skin all around your arm. So your arm is significantly thinner, and they take that skin in some kind of form and surgery. I'm honestly, it's a bad analogy, but I'm thinking Play-Doh, and they form an artificial penis, and that becomes your now penis if you were a female and now were a man and now are transforming to a transgender man. And this thing, your arm is never the same. Your arm will always be thin. There will be scars for a long time. I saw a video of a person, a transgender man who was a woman, and he is much older now, decades older, and you can still see the scars all over his arm, and he holds up both his arms, and you can see it is extremely more thin. And this was decades ago. This is surgeries that minors are having, 15 and 16-year-old surgeries. This is horrific. This is mutilation. This is sick. And I'm just blown away by it. And you should be too. So this man who has the the chromosomes of a female is now, like many of these people that go through these surgeries in later life who've been gone down this gateway drug of gender ideology, regret this. The left won't share these stories with you because they don't want to know this. But there are plenty of people that have gone through this process and regretted it. This person will never be able to have children, will never experience all the joys of being a mother or pregnancy or all the things that come along being a woman, because when he was younger, when this female was younger, he made a rash decision. He's contemplated suicide, and now he's speaking out about it. And now transgender people, not all of them, but these people in this radical transgender have call him transphobic, all hateful. I don't even know how that's possible if he's transgender. It's this thing where it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of this stuff in the transgender community that doesn't make sense. They'll never define what a woman is, because once they do, it falls apart like a Jenga puzzle. You take out that one block and boom. They'll never say what a woman is because they can't, because their whole argument will fall apart. But my point of this is, folks, there are people out there that start this path of a simple doctor and a kindergartner putting this seed of doubt that I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl. And then a teacher reaffirms that. Then they go through the glitz of non-binary, and then they're going these appointments, and then they're having these hormones, and those hormones are telling them their body there's something they're not. And then they have this gender transition surgery that takes away their ability to be their born biological gender for the rest of their life. They regret it. They go through depression and sometimes commit suicide. And that's where we are. And it all starts at gender pronouns. So don't think these gender pronouns are innocent and they're just fun, and little girls are calling themselves unicorns and stuffies and I don't know, bears and all these. It's not. It sounds very innocent and sweet, but it is very sinister where it heads. And I gave you an example of where I tried to head it with my daughter. And I gave you an example of a person who regretted, and there are many, many more. So when states like Florida have laws that say, don't teach gender ideology to kids in kindergarten through third grade, there is a reason. It has nothing to do with religion. It has all to do with what I just told you about. Because kids at that age are very malleable and very easy to manipulate and get them to do what you want to do and change their mind, and their mind is not fully developed. It is a parent's duty to protect their kids for the long haul. Teachers come and go. Doctors come and go. Me as a parent, I'm with my kid thick and thin, and I will stick through them hell or high water over my dead body. And every parent will. So when you start having discussions that affect my daughter or anybody's kid, son, daughter, whoever, for the rest of their life, you've walked in a hornet's nest with parents. And that's what's going on in Florida. It has nothing to do with being transphobic. It has nothing to do with don't say gay. It has to do with the idea of teaching discussions that my kids and their kids and your kids are not ready for. And this idea of them regretting something way down the road. You want to decide that in later life when your mind is developed and you're mature, fine. You go right ahead and do that. But don't have these discussions with my kids when they still believe in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and this man who puts this person who puts tips underneath their pillow for putting a bloody tooth under it? I don't think so. So don't call me transphobic. Don't call me hateful. You can call me that all you want. It's not true. You can say that transgender women are women. No, they're not. They're transgender women. There will never be women. Women are biological adult females. End of story. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I will never take the transgender term off of it because it's a slap in the face to every woman on this planet who goes through the rigors, the hardships, the joys of being a woman. Menstruation, pregnancy, miscarriage, menopause, all the discrimination they have. To have the audacity of a man, a male, to think he has an iota of what it is like to be a woman, not a trans woman. A woman is a slap in the face to every female, young, from a baby to a woman 99 years old, the Queen of England who just died. It is wrong because you have not a clue whether you've had your surgery or whether you've had hormones, you've had all that. You have not a clue of what it's like because you will never have those things. And I have plenty of friends, women, who go through hell through menopause. I have a wife who literally almost died giving birth to our daughter. So don't tell me you have a clue of what's going on, because you don't. Because I watched my daughter almost die on the operating table, and I watched the doctors resuscitate her, and I watched my wife cut open to get our daughter out, and she put her life on the line. So don't give me this, transgender people, that you have a clue of what it is to be a woman, because you don't. So don't even try stepping on that identity of women, because you never can, ever, no matter how many surgeries you get. You will never have a period. You will never have children. You will never have the pain of having miscarriage after miscarriage, or hot flashes, or the pains of menopause. I won't either. I don't understand it, but I don't claim to understand it either. So, I will finish this video out with this. Be very careful, parents. Be very careful about this gender pronoun thing, because it is the gateway to your kids doing something they greatly regret. And I gave a very good case of how that happens in my towns and many towns, at Northampton Pediatrics, and in my daughter's schools all over, at the Montessori school here in Northampton, at the high schools, at Jackson Street Elementary School. I'll call them all out. I don't care. This is serious stuff, and I'm standing up for my daughters. And if you like what I'm doing, come join me at dadfedup.org. I'd love to have you there. I will be fighting this hell or high water. I'll be at the YMCA letting people know what's going on. I'll be there today with my sign. I was there yesterday letting people know the truth that adult males are in the shower room with little girls, mature girls, females, women, changing, showering, but the YMCA wants to hire that. I had a sign that just stated that fact to let them know. The YMCA came out, the cops came, 4 cops, 3 cops. They actually supported what a lot of people were supporting, saying, giving me thumbs up. They were whispering thank you, giving me a prayer sign. And there were certainly people that came by when I was holding my sign, told me F you, cussing at me, screaming at me, flipping me the bird. the YMCA came out and handed me a no trespassing sign. They didn't ask me to get off. And I was sitting in the grass, probably not even on their property. And they said, I can't go on their property anymore. Oh, boo-hoo. I don't want to go on the property of an institution that allows adult males to shower with my daughter and force them out of their private spaces. Pardon me, but that's not too big of a sacrifice. But I'll be back there today on the sidewalk because people want to know this. The YMCA doesn't want you to know. This is just going on to so many discussions. I'm going to stop. I'll have another discussion on this. But be aware about this, folks. Gender pronouns are the gateway drug to a horrific life, possibly for your son or daughter. And I've proven it. Check me out, dadfedup.org. Join us. We need you. Stand up for women, girls, everywhere.